Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei was Azazel's strongest weapon. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. It was a dark night in a forest near the border of a little town known as Kuro. In the silence of the darkness, you could have heard a silent sobbing of a small boy. A 10-year-old with clear brown spike hair. It was clear that a tragedy has befallen the boy. That was what an adult with messy hair and blonde bangs at the end of his hair, dressed in a plain gray kimono saw. But besides the child, he felt two weak presence of human adults that were fading away, and right beside the boy a red mass of energy that he felt while taking a walk in said forest a few minutes ago. He did have some information but still insufficient to say what exactly happened here. So he decides to speak to the little boy. "Hey little one, what happened? Why are you crying in a place like this?" But no answer came from the boy. The man waited for a while longer, then grabbed the boy by the shoulders and lifted his head up. The boy was concise but the light was gone from his eyes. "Well, this is a mess. I was just going to annoy Shemahaza by slipping away from the work for a while, but here I step into a troublesome situation. Well, then what to do?" In a moment the older man lifted his hand and slapped the boy in hope of getting him to return to reality. The boy started to turn his head in the man's direction with a red mark now on his cheek. "But seems like you are back in the land of the living. Thought I would need to slap you a few more times to get your attention. Now, what happened here, boy?" The boy started to open and close his mouth, trying to find his own voice and words to describe the tragedy that unfolded. The situation distracted him so much that he altogether forgot about the fact that a stranger dressed in a kimono of all things just appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the mountains at night. We were looking at the stars. Then Dad was attacked by something. Mom tried to help, but Dad told her to take me and run. When we got here that thing caught up with us and Dash. Attacked your mother, huh? But I don't feel anything here, so where is this something? Asked the man after taking a few glances at the surroundings. The only thing that boy did was lift his right hand and point at the tree. The man slowly put down the boy on the ground and took a few steps to the place, pointed by his small companion. What he saw was something that amazed him. To say it simply in human language, it was a monster, but for the man, it was pretty easy to determine exactly what kind of monster it was. While for this kind of thing to be in Japan, it's pretty rare, not to add almost impossible for it to be true. After hearing those words, the boy finally really looked at the man. Why is he here? What is he doing? Why is he dressed like that? While the unknown man started to observe the remains of the creature, the boy's mind started to pose questions about his predicament. Realizing that the boy finally starts to look at him, the man smirked and started to talk. "No need to worry, kid. I'm only here for a stroll and I find that Japanese clothes are very comfortable." Exclamation point. The boy's face changed to one of surprise upon the man's words. "How dash? Have anybody told you that you are easy to read, kid? That face of yours shows everything." Upon his answer, the boy's face started to relax. His body, losing whatever remaining strength, slumped against the bark of the tree behind him. "Heh, my parents used to say that a lot. You know what that thing is?" "Seen this quite a lot in my line of work. It's called a nihog, a parasite offspring of a Norse creature. It possesses other living beings and takes control of them, mutating them in order to better the host body. The majority of times hosts die before the mutation, though it has been observed that some cases attain a perfect mutation and survive. You're lucky its host was a majority and it died before getting you." "That it did get me. But then something happened and the next thing I know it's dead." At those words, the figure in the kimono turns back and finally notices that the boy had the most amazing clear chocolate-colored eyes that he has ever seen in his long life. After thinking about what else could kill a creature known for its fierceness, man has once again felt the presence that initially made him direct himself to this place. A presence he remembered all too well. His personality and position made it a necessity to make sure his hunch was right. "Seems that you walk yourself up, Drake." At those words, the boy's left hand started glowing red light, and after a moment a red gauntlet with a green gem at center of his hand. It seems that way, Azazel. It's been a while. Haven't seen you for 3 of my hosts already. The strong and low voice rang to both of their ears, and after a few seconds another's voice sliced through the silence of the night. Hey, get it off. Get it off. Calm down, partner. He is right, kid, you need to relax. But I'm surprised to meet the next security during my night out of work. Sekiwa? Asked a dumbfounded boy. The Red Dragon Emperor, locally called security, said man not fazed by anything that is happening right now. While pointing at the core of the creature, man said, he seems a little young for being able to awaken you, not to add being able to kill a nihog like that. Indeed. For a simple human, it would normally be impossible, but the boy has quite strong and pure emotions. His rage and sorrow were strong enough for me to awaken, and he was able to use one of my powers at such a young age. He possesses a great affinity with a dragon such as myself. You don't say, says the old man stroking his beard. Hey kid, what's your name? Now asking for the most important thing. The boy answers with a little hesitation. Sit. Hayudo Issei. Issei ha. I'm Azazel. I got an offer for you. If you come with me I can tell you about that red gauntlet of yours and explain what I think happened to you here. Of course, that is if you want to. Thinking about his proposition, he looks at the bodies of his parents and then at his hand. And finally speaks. Fine. But what about my parents? Bodies? Don't worry. I will send someone to recover them and give them a proper burial. We will send a word to the police as well. It will all come down to a wild animal attack, but better a story that can be easily accepted than the truth. So, you coming or not? After a minute of doubt, he answers him. Okay. After hearing those words, Azazel smirked and a bright light appeared beneath both of them. The boy did not know that ahead of him are trials and many hardships as well as the love and happiness that his parents wished for him. Issei, talking. Issei, thinking. Issei Drake speaking out loud. Issei Drake speaking in Issei's mind. 10 years later. Rias POV. My name is Rias Gremory, next heir to the high-class devil clan of Gremory. But right now I think that my life is about to end. By the hands of one of the most powerful beings to have survived the Great War, as well as being one of leaders for the fallen angel faction, Kokabeel. Why, you ask? Well, he is a warmonger whom wishes to begin yet another war between the 3 main factions. As such, he's willing to destroy Kuo Town, of which has been entrusted to my care. Though it's a small place in the country of Japan, each of my trusted servants live here. Yet we're all fighting for not only for our own, but the town's survival. However, we're not alone. An exorcist by the name of Zenobia Corda was dispatched by the church to help with the holy sword Durandal. Yet it still became utterly pointless in the face of such a powerful foe. We're all at the end of the line, it seems. My trusted queen Akino Himejima, whom I found on borders of my family's territory. Kaneko to my beloved Rook, whom my brother saved and entrusted me to take care of. My shy, yet brave Bishop Gasper Vladi, who had been exiled by his own family for being different. My other, gentle Bishop Asia Argento, whom I rescued after she was thrown away from the church for helping a devil. Then finally, my strong knight, Yuto Kiba, a sole survivor of the Holy Sword Project. The man known as Valper Galilei, or the Genocide Archbishop, was the one who conducted the experiments on Yuto and had been revealed to be an accomplice of Kokabeel's. But while the chain of events that took place after this unveiling had allowed Yuko to achieve his balance breaker sword birth, it still proved useless. I was too arrogant. I thought that with so much strength from each of my servants and a member of the church, that we could win. But I was wrong, so very wrong. Yet how? How could I have thought that we, a household of a mere 6 devils, and a human that wielded the power a holy sword, could win against an original fallen angel? I'm so sorry, dear family, I failed. But if there was one thing I would truly regret from my life, it would be the fact that I was never able to experience true love. Though in the middle of my lamenting, I never noticed the large stream of red energy coming down from the sky. Yet what I did take note of was the sudden voice that spoke up, it being warm and full of confidence. Normal POV. It is time to die, Rias Gremory. Your death will be a new stepping stone for my grand ambi-dash, Kokabeel began, but his words were stopped short as the confident voice suddenly echoed all around them. I don't think so. No one will be dying here. And with those words the enormous barrier surrounding the whole academy shattered into tiny pieces. Though after this occurred, a stream of red light came down from the sky and hit the ground. Upon landing the light soon disappeared, yet in its place stood a person clad in red armor. But the more eye-catching parts were the glowing green gems on various areas across the armor itself. Kokabeel's eyes soon widened in surprise along with each of the devils and even Zenovia's. Yet while the fallen angel seemed more nervous than anything, the others appeared rather thankful to this new arrival. Welsh Dragon, why are you here? Kokabeel demanded loudly as his eyes narrowed heavily on the armor-covered person. Welsh Dragon? Rias echoed silently as her eyes widened in even greater surprise, to which she watched the dragon come closer to the fallen angel. Yo, old man. It's been quite a while, the armored being said with a somewhat passive tone as if nothing going on around him was a big deal. Why did you came here? This is none business of security, Kokabeel stated as he pointed a finger at the person before him. Well, it became my business when old man Azazel gave me the order to bring you in, the Welsh dragon said as he took one last step forward. Now then that we can either do this the easy way, he continued on as he hit an armored fist into his open hand, that or the hard way. At these words, the fallen angel glared heavily on his new opponent before flapped his wings strongly and flew into the air. Don't make me laugh, he started as he brought his arms up. As if a worm like you could hurt someone like me, he called out in a confident, yet rather arrogant tone as a large spear of light formed in his hands. Take this, you lowly dragon piece of garbage. Kokabeel finished before he threw his spear after it reached such enormous size that dodging at this point became useless. Hard way it is then, was all Sekuyudai muttered before he moved his body into a fighting stance and watched the slow-moving spear come down toward him. The attack itself moving quite sluggish due to the massive amount of power poured inside of it. You think that you can survive my attack? The fallen angel yelled as his eyes narrowed, yet there was a bit of nervousness in his tone. You dare mock me? Then take it and die. You lower life form, he finished loudly, his voice still holding a bit of worry. But the Welsh dragon still did not move a muscle, save for just before the spear's impact. Him pulling a fist back as another, yet somewhat gruff voice echoed out a single word. Boost. Immediately following this, Sekuyudai swung his fist forward and collided with the gigantic spear. Though upon doing so, said attack instantly shattered apart as if it were merely made of glass, to which the remnants of magic soon disappeared. This surprising everyone watching as it left them all completely speechless for a few moments. Only Kokabeel managing to say something, but it was merely to project his disbelief. But that's impossible. I am Sekuyudai, Drake. One of my sacred gear, the boosted gear Abelites, is to double my own power every 10 seconds. The Welsh dragon said with a voice of confidence. Whatever you throw at me, I'll send it right back at you in double quantity, he continued, to which he suddenly seemed to appear mere millimeters in front of the fallen angel. You overstepped your boundaries, shitey old man, now go to sleep, he finished with a silent tone before the voice echoed out once more. Boost. With this being said, a flashing blur of the Welsh dragon's fist hit Kokabeel's stomach and knocked him out instantly. This leading for him to drop right to the ground with a thud, to which Sekuyudai merely stepped to the side and shifted his armored head toward the unconscious rogue exorcist, freed. I'll be taking that priest over there as well. Azazel has some questions for him, so I'll be needing him too. Sekuyudai stated to the devils to the side as they just stared at him. Though his words broke them out of their daze, to which they turned toward Freed as well and narrowed their eyes. Him having been defeated by Yuto and Zenovia, despite wielding a reconstructed, yet fake Excalibur. But the weapon itself still held very impressive power that proved to be a bit of a challenge, even for Yuto's newly attained balance break. Yet before they knew it, the rogue priest soon vanished in a flash of red before their eyes, to which they quickly turned back to the Welsh dragon as he had both Freed and Kokabeel in his arms. Security then tilted his head up and bent his armored knees slightly as if to prepare to fly. Yet just before he could push off the ground, one of the few devils near of him spoke to him. "Wait!" was the female voice he heard, causing him to pause and turn toward the one who called out to him. Who he saw was enough to make any man or woman skip a heartbeat in response. She was a beautiful woman wearing a uniform that belonged to the school they were currently standing next to. Bedside the few bruises and scratches she attained from the fight, she still looked utterly stunning. Though she also had an amazing aura about her, which all but radiated grace and nobility. But what caught his eye the most was her figure. Such a small perfect waist, magnificent curves for her but an artist that rivaled any fallen angel women that he ever met. However, the most stunning part of her was the color of her hair. It was a pure crimson that made him think that she was truly the most gorgeous woman he met in his life. But as she had continued speaking, it snapped him out a daze that he didn't realize he was in. "Why did you help us?" she questioned with a hint of respect toward him and the power she has seen him wield. "If you must know, I have 4 reasons to help you, Groszekace," he said with a neutral-sounding tone, though it didn't prevent the brief surprise of the red-headed girl at him knowing her name. 1. It was an order. 2. I don't like Groszekace. War is all this guy talks about. Have you ever tried to hold a normal conversation with this around? It's impossible. 3. I care for this town to a degree. And lastly, but most importantly, he continued silently as he paused for a moment, to which each of the others all but inched forward in expectation to what he'd say next. That I couldn't live with myself to let someone as beautiful and brave as you to die by hands of this scum while protecting this town, was his finishing words as his very tone sounded as though he were giving a charming smile to her. Immediately following these words, the young heiress soon produced a new and previously unknown reaction. A deep blush, going from ear to ear. Her rush of blood quickly stopped, however, when the Welsh dragon started moving away from her. "I best be going," was all he said as he jumped lightly into the air and hovered for a moment. "Wait, who are you?" Rias called out as she took a few quick steps forward as the armored dragon started flying higher and higher. "The name is Drake, and we will meet again, Groszekace," he called back to her before flying off into the sky before disappearing completely. Though after a few moments of just staring at the sky, each of the devils and the church's exorcist turned away as Rias' childhood friend, Sona Satiri, appeared. Along with her, many of her own servants followed close behind, all of whom had been keeping the barrier up before it was destroyed. But due to them being part of the school's student council, Sona had her friend and her servants help in the rebuilding of the school. Despite taking over an hour to reconstruct everything that had been damaged, Rias still decided on walking home. Her having too many thoughts in her mind to go to sleep right away as she eventually made it home. Though while thinking about the Welsh dragon she just met, she slowly began to drift off to sleep. However, when she recalled Security's last words, she soon regained the deep red blush on her face. Security, Drake. Rias POV. A dream. Or should I say a distant memory of mine. 5 years ago. A mansion in the underworld that was a place for negotiations between the devil faction represented by my brother and one of 4 Mauser's Lucifer and one of fallen angels' leaders Azazel, or that's what I heard. But here I'm after begging my brother while potting he finally agreed to take me with him. I had enough of my family's house. I knew every corner of that place and I became very bored, and having overprotecting father does not help it at all. I'm not allowed to go to city or taking trips alone with my servants, that consisted of only Aquino and Kaneko at the time. But after hearing a gossip talk between maids at home about brother's bus's trip, I decided to take my chance and go with him to see something new. Unfortunately, I was not able to take my queen and rook because of nature of meeting or that what my brother said to me while agreeing to take me. But I started to think that it was a stupid idea. We were waiting in a big bright red room that looked like study, having a wooden desk, bookshelf full of books that gone to the ceiling, a little square table and on each while a brown sofa covers. 2 big windows where shine light into the room from each side of bookshelf. What I could see outside was a big round square and a few soldiers from both faction trying not to interact with each other. The mansion itself was nothing special, It seemed to me like someone's summer house than in mansion, but while living in one of the largest house I have ever been to, I was not surprised and kept that information to myself. Getting back to problem at hand, I was starting thinking fallen angels were making us look like fools, and by use I mean mostly my brother and his maid-wife Queen Graphia. We were waiting for 2 hours already for love of God. I sometime forget that those words give us devils a headache. But looking at situation I could not help myself. I mean, if I knew that we would be waiting for their leader that long, I would stay and play with Akino and Kaneko or study more about Japan. I was becoming fascinated with home country. You need to be patient with this kind of things. Rias. Azazel is known to be sloppy at official business. And as future leader of Gremry, it is very important to keep you cool at all times. Getting opponent irritated or angry is one of basic strategies of negotiations or politics. While saying those things, Graphia nods to those words. At the same time my brother's talk ended and fallen angel soldier entered the room, stopping our talk while preparing mentally for the talk with his leader. Or that what we thought. I'm terribly sorry, Lord Lucifer, but it seems that Master Azazel caught flu and is not able to participate in talks. Just how could a legendary being that is recorded in Bible fall in front of flu? Fortunately, we were able to contact someone else and he has just arrived, but he said that after making you wait for that long he will understand if you would not like to talk with our side. Who is this person, if I may know? It is Master's Azazel right-hand Master Shemahaza, sir. If it is Shemahazadano, then I suspect to do it faster than if I were to talk to Azazel. While I may be disrespectful to Master, it is true. He is waiting in garden behind the mansion. He would like to talk there. If you would follow me, I will show you the way. At those words, after 2 hours of sitting, I finally got up together with my brother and follow in the soldier. We were led to garden behind house. I need to say that it may not been our garden, it had a refreshing feeling to it. Looking around, I suspect because it was an open garden next to small forest, and in the distance I could see a small lake. In center of garden, I saw a man in what appeared his 20s with a short hair of black color, dressed in a gray business suit, sipping what looked like a cup of tea. Asai Zekdano. Welcome, and I need to apologize for incomfort my superior made for you and your attendants. It is fine, Shemahazadano. I suspect that no one could imagine that the Azazel could catch a flu. About that, it seems that he infected himself by using a transfer magic during a trading session with one of his pupils to do not attend this meeting. Of course, after hearing that, I tried to talk to home, but he said that he just did not feel like going. The word stupid got just a new meaning in all of our heads as listening to Shemahaza's story. I see, answered my brother while Graphia just shish at the information. But do not worry. I already made sure that he would be close in his room with all of his unfinished work. I imagine that my brother thought that his wife and this person's would become close friends, having to deal with the same type of problems. Either way, who is this young lady? Let me introduce my little sister Rias Gremry. It is a pleasure, Oju-san. At his words I nodded and gave a fake smile that he did not notice. Rias, why don't you see that lake over there? After sitting for that long, I bet you would like to take a walk. For Shemahaza it seemed like a normal request, but for me it meant that we would like to talk about classified information, and for that reason you can't be here. I understood that after waiting all that time there was not a chance for small talk between them, so without a word I nodded and gone to the lake. After few minutes of walking the forest, I was in front of a perfectly blue lake. It was not surprised that it was not a big lake. Surprise was to find a tree and rock right to my left. The rock was halfway water and tree was hanging its leaves at water. But it stunned me to see a boy sitting beneath that tree, a boy that looked to be my age. I got closer and made sure that he was near my age. He was looking up into sky, but I was able to take a good look at his face, and it was pretty cute, and what was especially great was his light brown color eyes. What are you doing here? While keeping on edge at any danger, I spoke to that boy, and he finally looked at me. Thanks to that I was able to prove my theory about his face and eyes, but besides I was able to make his just like eyes brown spike hair. Uncle Shemahaza brought me here. Said that, sometimes it is good to have a change of pace. And you, what are you doing here? I came with my brother that is talking to him right now. After another moment, face of boy in front of me became bit red. Why, I wonder? His face turned to side, but with a breeze of wind he turned back to me and his face became more red as his mouth opened a bit, at the same time the wind blow my hair in mid-air. Red. Heard him say. Not exactly. It is crimson. I guess you could call it a trait in my family. Everyone besides my has different color hair like this. Most adults said the same about me, that my family always had this kinds of hair color. Or something like that. He ended his statement while turning his head away from my gaze. For a while she stared like that while I stared at him. All the time he took a few glances at me. After what seemed like an hour I spoke. I need to go, my brother may get worry. Red, color of love. A color of rose in full bloom. Color that connects two destinies of two people. By the thing that represents love. After hearing what seemed like a poem, I became speechless. For a boy of this age to say such words, but what got to me the most was the way he spoke them, the sweetness and deep meaning behind those words. Beautiful. While blushing at my words, the boy said, my dad was a writer. He created that poem when I found a red rose at park. It stuck in my head. After another few minutes someone grabbed my hand. It was Graphia. It's time to go, young lady. With those words she dragged me away from the boy. I could tell his last word to me before he disappeared in the way of forest behind me. See you. We returned to mansion. Brother left me at home with a satisfied look and gone back to his office. I was able to get to my room and got changed into my nightdress. I lie down on my bed, and while remembering that boy's face and his clear brown eyes, I drifted to sleep. Present. I woke up in my bed. That memory, it's been 5 years since then, huh? While thinking those things I got up from bed and got to my window. Looking out I remembered that it has been 2 days since the Groszekace incident and I will need to give a report to my brother soon about that. While getting dressed and getting my back, I was remembering that boy again. I wonder where he is now. And with those thoughts I left my room. Say POV. Like I thought there nothing like fresh air of Japan. I say it out loud while standing at top of tallest building in Kuo town. Partner, don't forget what we came here to do. I don't want you to become a lab rat for that lunatic's experiments ever again. Just remembering it gives me chills, me, says my life dragon partner while a green ball of light appeared in center of my hand. Don't remind me, Drake. I never want to go through that again. Either way, you're right, it's about time we pay that girl a visit and do our job. With those words I jumped of the building and spread my red wings. I just love flying. While in air his mind trades to a day, he first met a girl that had a crimson air just like the airs of Gremory. She was serious about that being her family's trait. Her brother had hair just like her. I wonder if she still remembers me. With those thoughts I decided to speed up a bit. Ria's POV. While going to school together with my servants, I still think about dream I had for the last days. It's the same dream ever since that battle with Groszekace. I wonder what does it mean. Rias One-sama? Are you alright? Is something the matter, Rias? Taking me away from my thoughts are both my bishop and queen, Asia and Aquino. Aquino is my best and most trusted friend that knows everything about me, while Asia is like a little sister too, and I treat her like that. It's nothing, just thinking about how to write report for Oni-sama. Of course I would lie in this situation. I can't just say that I have been thinking about my first love. Yes, that boy was my first love, or crushi like some human girls would say. I mean, what girl wouldn't fall for a person's that says a poem about color of her hair? Good morning Butcho, Fuku Butcho, Asia. Ada, air. Good morning Zenobia-chan. Good morning Zenobia-san. Good morning Zenobia. Aquino, Asia and me welcome new member of my peerage Zenobia Cart that after discovering in that fight that God is dead became a devil. How is Miss Irina? Have you heard from her at all? Yes, it seems that she safely returned to Vatican and gave the Excalibur pieces back to church. I'm glad that she was not present during that battle. If she would hear the truth she would have broken down right there. Indeed, her friend that was dispatched with her Irina Shindo was injured previous to the battle and was not able to help us. But because of Zenovia's words I think it was the truth. Even Asia, previously called Holy Maiden, that was betrayed by church and thrown away because of her good heart, still believed in that great presence. To discover that he was dead, it was a true shock, but she was over it, or that's what I wanted to believe. After conferring that Durandal was still in her possession, we met both Gasper, Yuto and Kaneko getting back from Convi store after buying bentos and Kaneko's sweets. We were enjoying our way to school while Asia and Zenobia talked about their time at church while me and Akino were deciding how to write that report for Onisama, and the other three just smiled and listened to others. Just before a small bridge before school we saw a commotion, and it was not our occult research club kind of commotion that got attention of both boys and girls. It was something, or in this case someone else. Using our enhanced hearing of devils, we were able to make some kind of gossip between students. Who is that? He looks so cool. Where did he come from? While girls were saying that, I heard voices of boys. Dim and him. Who does he think he is? Die pretty boy. Having enough of just leasing, we got closer, and as a third year I decided to end this commotion. Okay everyone. You're blocking the way to school. Rias one Sama. Bar C members as well. And with that all hell broke loose at us, but with my authority I told them to go to school, and by saying authority I mean a little magic that helped me control this chaos. And now turning to the main problem of this commotion. Excuse me? You are not a student of this academy. What are you doing here? At my words the stranger stood from Bridge's railing and straighten up. And throw his hood that hides his face in front of use, and I had a weird feeling in my heart. I saw a young man in sport butts, black jeans, wearing a red t-shirt and on it black good with a symbol of what looked like a dragon on back, and lastly a necklace that was hidden beneath his shirt. But my attention was placed on his face the most. To put it simple, he was very handsome. He has brown spike hair with tied at back a ponytail split in two separate tails. His right eye had a light brown color, but his left was a pure green. It was unusual even to me to meet people with iris heterochromia. But that shine in his green eye made him a little mysterious, and the grin on his face that he made when he saw use. Actually, I wanted to see if a certain Oheim-san and her peerage were fine. At those words we all tensed up and I asked slowly, "Who are you?" Oh. Now that I think about it, I did not introduce myself then. My name is Issei Hayu, Security, Welsh Dragon. He ended his introduction with a swift smirk. Welsh Dragon? On words of my surprise, both Yuto and Zenobia moved fast behind him with both of their swords drawn. Why are you here? What does Security wants with us? After Yuto's question, Zenobia asked next, but I was still in shock while thinking that my count of persons that made me blush got down from 3 back to 2. Oi, is that how a devil thanks for saving his life? Besides, do you really think that you would stand a chance against me? With that question, every one of you's sweat dropped. In truth, we were doomed if he would not appeared back then, not to add that he defeated Kokabeel with us while we were trying to survive. Zenobia, Yuto drop but those swords away. Don't make a scene in front of school. I said those words with my co-ending tone. Turning to him I ask, and you, why did you come here? Old man Azazel told me to come here and tell a devil representative of what happened to Kokabeel after that. But since you are busy with school, I will come after your lessons end at around 5 a.m. Is that fine with you, Rias Gremerson? He asked while still having that wide grin on his face. Yes, it is. Well then, until later. He passed us and turned back to say something more. It was nice seeing you again, Oheim-san. And leaving those words behind, he disappeared into thin air. Normal POV. The school is boring, interesting, or exacting for students of prestigious Kuo Academy. Of course, everything depends on the person. For people like Yuto Kiba's fun club, exacting for being able to their prince from dreams, interesting for foreign students like Asia Argent and Zenobia Kurt, or just plain boring like the infamous perverted duo that were in school only to peek on girls from Kendo Club in changing room. The only persons that was not those 3 categories, at least today, was one of the 4 great ladies of this school, Rias Gremery. No here thought were placed upon the young man that she met, or should she say properly met, that called himself Security and his name was Issei Haidu. Why can't I take him and that stupid grin of his out of my head? While dreading the upcoming meeting, Issei had actually no problem with meeting members of ORC. One, because he was used to meeting other factions while on jobs from Azazel, and he knew personally a few devils that were not evil or good. For him it meant that it was a persons he could talk with. While roaming the streets of his hometown, he did not notice a small bat following him. The creature in question was Rise's familiar that she sent during lunch break to spy on him. To members of her peerage, it seemed that she was very worried of the boy or very interested in him. What they did not suspect was for the boy to go to graveyard near the new church in center of town. They became more curious as to why he gone there, but while crossing the brother of cement art, the feedback from familiar was cut off and she was transported back to her master by putted beforehand transport magic. It seems that someone does not want us in that place. Won't you say so, Rias? It seems so in Dedekino. I wanted to have some information about him as an ace in hole for our meeting, but it can't be helped. We will just need to be cuties in this case. Everyone, I'm counting on you. Yes, Butcho. All of them said in union. At the same time, they decided to go back to their classroom and spend rest of school day in peace while preparing mentally for their meeting with Security. Going back to Issei, he was now in front of his family gravestone. It has been at least 2 years since he came to pay respect to his parents. He could see that no one else came to them since he had no other family, it was obvious, but still he felt sadness befall him for thinking that no one else visited his parents. Oh my! If it isn't little Issei-kun. He turned to the voice and what he saw was an older lady with gray hair dressed in normal clothes, a long dress and a green sweater. Kayumi-san? It's been a while. I forgot all about her. He remembered the older lady as his neighbor in his childhood that his parents left him on their nights out. To him she was like a grandma that he never met. Indeed it has. Just look at you. So big and so handsome. Maybe I should introduce you to my granddaughter. If I remember correctly, you are both in same age, and that girl still can find a nice young man like you. While saying that, old lady gone off to her own little world, and as listening more to what she was saying, he began to sweat dropped. Kayumi-san, I remember your granddaughter. We used to play together, and I bet she grown up fine. Besides, I'm not sure that her parents would allow her to date a boy that loves on foot not staying in one place for long. It was an excuse, but a one that was a truth. For last 4 years he has not been able to stay in one place, always going somewhere to train, or on a mission given to him by Azazel. Well, I guess that's true. Knowing my son and his wife. But either way you came to pay respect to them. Just, I haven't been here for 2 years. I thought that I would at least live some flower, showing her a bouquet of red roses and rare green ones as well. Besides myself and my husband, I doubt that anyone else comes to see them. And with those words, a silent, heavy atmosphere befall both of them. He got closer and placed the flowers besides the gravestone and decided to pray. He knew that there no one to pray for besides gods of Japan and other gods from other countries. Miss Kayumi did the same, replaced the old flowers with new ones and prayed to God for happiness for both of them in heavens. I'm really thankful for coming to my parents' grave, Kayumi-san. If it weren't for you and your husband, I guess that this gravy would be dusty and overgrown by plants. You don't need to thank me. Your father was a close friend of my son, and I felt like a mother when I was talking with your mother. After a little talk, Issei turned around and started walking while declaring, well, I have some business in the town, so I will need to get going. I see. By the way, Ayan, if you would be free in the near future, come by our house. I bet that my husband would be glad to see you again. At those words, Issei remembered an old grumpy man that he liked to call Gramps. If I will be able to eat your delicious food, I will gladly visit. While shouting, he disappeared behind the corner. Well, here we are. Issei staged while standing in front of a huge double door leading to ORC club room, what was in reality Rias Gremory's stronghold here in Kuo Academy. Are there any surprises for us, Drake? I don't feel anything of sorts, partner. Okay, then let's get this over with. And with that small talk, he opens the door and sees the room. A room with 2 windows on his left, in center of room a little coffee table and on both sides a black sofa. At back of room a desk for paperwork and 1 chair that looked like a set. Getting back to table on one of its sofa was sitting Rias and her servants behind her. Issei moved inside, closing the doors behind him and moving to the other spray in front of Rias. He sat down and waited for the young devil girl to make her move. Very well then. Now that you are here, I would like to hear Fallen Angel's involvement in the accident that happened 2 days ago. With that statement, she straightened up and fiercely looked at her opponent in this talk. Issei took someone kind of disc and placed it in front of Rias while saying, "I'm only here as a messenger, and this is the said message." He activated the divide and what appeared was a hologram of Azazel. "Hello, this is message left by yours true genius Azazel-sama. More like a moron than genius." By now I suspect that Issei boy said something about with a word, moron, but I will let it elite for now and get to business. Kokabeel has taken own personal orders. Right now we know nothing about others that shared his ideas, but we are investigating every possible accomplices. By the end of those words Rias has headed everything that she needed to write a good report for her brother, but those were the least of her problems. During this entailed message she was not able to truly concentrate, and that was seen by her servants and especially Aquino and Asia. What they did not know was the reason for this dissociation. That was an unknown for them, but Rias knew the answer to that question, say height. Ever since he entered the room she was not able to take her eyes off him. She did not understand if it was because of who he was or something entirely different was making her eyes not able to look away from the young man. Get a grip, Rias. He is an agent for fallen angels. While having those thoughts Rias was brought back to reality by Azazel's next statement. "Since we do not know if the danger has passed, I'm leaving my messenger Issei Hayudu as a bodyguard. I already got him transferred to Kuo Academy, so no problem, and a place to sleep." What? At those words every person in the room were surprised by Fallen Angel's leader, but mostly was the person in question. He got out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello, old man. What does it mean I need to stay as bodyguard?" "But I'm sure there are. But hello, old man. Old man." With an unbearable silence his talk with who devils though was Azazel ended and silence once again overtook the room. "Well, it seems that the story is true. So I think I'm going to look for that hotel. I guess that is the best option." And with those words leaving an atmosphere of doubt and dumb blank expressions of devils, Issei left the ORC club's room in search of a place that Azazel got him. On the borders of the town stood an abandoned church which began to shine a purple light. From there came out 4 figures clad in black cloaks. "So this is the place," said one of cloak figures. "It seems that way. I hope this will not be for nothing." "It will not. We will do our task and complete the mission." While the 3 figures talked forth walked outside and thought of no mission, but a person. "I'm coming for you, me lovely Issei." Normal POV. It was morning in Kuo town and the rays of light started shining on Issei's face in his hotel room that Azazel got him for now since delivering the news of him becoming, well, to put simple, bodyguard for high-class devil as well as future head of Gremory House, Rias Gremory. He met her 5 years ago, but it seemed like she did not recognize him. Besides that he have heard only rumors about her and that she was known as Crimson Ruin Princess. That title was earned thanks to her power of destruction that belongs to clan of Beal that her mother was a member of until wedding with her father. But to Issei it was different. To him she was right now only a very beautiful teenage girl that was a year older than him. After few more minutes after regaining consciousness he got up and decided to take shower since after yesterday's news he was so dumbfounded he forgot to take shower after getting to hotel room. After that he grabbed his new school uniform that consisted of what seemed like a light black suit with school's emblem on his left chest. Same uniforms as in anime. Under it he wore red t-shirt and he left his jacket unbuttoned to revel his shirt. He tied his hair, got his bag with textbooks and school materials, and came down to hotel restaurant, ate breakfast and gone off to school. Now that I look at it, it's a pretty big school. While thinking why did school need so much space? He always thought that a brick figure building, sports ground and a cafeteria was enough for it to be an appropriate school for studying. But this academy was in a word gigantic. The same as in anime. While crossing the main gate and heading for main entrance to the building, he heard people on their way to school starting to gossip about him. He was able to make some words like cool or handsome, but there were sentences like go die and not another bishinen. He could think that first were girls and the die or go to hell were guys. But he didn't really care because he was still set off on Azazel for making him do this. I still don't get it. Of all people in Grigory, why me? Then he remembered, Shemahaza that Issei thought of like an actual father always said that he would like for Issei to have a bit of fun like normal human beings in his age. But he always swept it saying that he wasn't a normal human being and that he needed to train. I guess that uncle had something to do with this. With that he noticed that he was already in main school building and needed to go to teacher's facility for meeting with his homeroom teacher. Getting to meet his teacher was one now it was time to meet his class. He didn't really know what to do. His teacher said that he will call him when it will be the time for him to introduce himself. And now with no further ado I would like you to meet your new classmate. You can enter now. Yes, and with a simple answer doors to class sighted open and from them Issei has entered classroom and a hell broke loose on him. It's him the guy from yesterday. Like I thought he would transfer. Another prince, Kata. Those were the girls, as for boys. No. One more. Why use? Why? Hey, maybe he's a pervert. You know, like a wolf in sheep's clothes. Okay, everyone be quiet and let him introduce properly. With teacher's statement the class became silent and were concentrated on the new addition to their class. I'm Issei Haidu, it's nice to meet all of you. With it he was able to finally see that two devils from Rise's Parage were in his class, the blue-eyed guy that attained balance breaker in that fight, and blonde-haired girl with emerald green eyes. His conciseness shifted back when one of students shoot up from seat. Issei? Is that you? My Kates? He asked, still not being able to believe that one of his childhood friend was in the same class as him. She was my Kates, granddaughter of Miss Kiyomi and his friend back when they were little. Kates looks exactly like the one in anime. Miss Kates, if you're familiar with Mr. Hayu, why don't you show him around the campus? Hi. With pleasure. And just for future references I will give you an extra homework, so that you will remember to do not explode like that during lessons. At the end of his sentence the class erupted into small laughs at the reaction of girl. On the other hand, Yuto thought to himself to report that he may found a way to control security by using his friend. Well then Hagen, why don't you take a seat next to Kiba-kun? With words of teacher Yuto was dragged out of his own world and back into reality. He observed as the man approached his seat and when he sights himself he gave a surprise to young devil. Issei Haidu, nice to meet you. With a smile he gave his hand to be shaken. The same. I'm Yuto Kiba. Next thing both boys shake their hands and at that Issei but a little more force to his shake and pushed Yuto so that his ear would be near Issei's mouth and in that second girls exploded with Kia at foul volume but Yuto heard Issei whisper. Try anything to Mia and I may change myself from Buddy Gourd into killer. With a hint of malice he moved away. In that moment Yuto felt like something have grabbed his hurt and tried to rip it out. A true fear that he never felt before. Even in the face of death as he escaped from HSP facility all those years ago. He just nodded slowly and his opponent's face changed from stoic to a face with wide grin on it. Yuto at this moment understood that his team was they did not stand a chance against the might of security. Lunch break was a time for students to enjoy their free time and have a little break from studying. But this lunch break was a little different for Issei and Mia as they were enjoying their company and she was showing him around the campus. Right now they were talking beneath one of trees at back of school. But still to think that you would transfer back to Kuo. I was totally surprised. I heard from Bachan that you were in town but to transfer. It was a surprise for me as well. I was more made to come here. Seeing his face, she guessed that it was a decision made on a moment. Still I'm happy to see you again like this. It's been 7 years since auntie and uncle funeral. So much time passed. The mode fall down once again so as man he decided to change subject. By the way, you still train. Kendo I mean. He remembered that the three of them, Mia, Issei and a boy that transferred to England once attended the same Kenjutsu dojo and that she was really into it. It seemed as the girl remembered that as well. With proud expression began talking. Hear and be surprised as well as honored. You're talking to last year's winner of nationals as well as new captain of Kuo Academy's Girls Kendo Club. With a satisfied expression on face she ended her statement and next was the boy's turn to talk. Oh, I'm not worth. At that time the girl started to giggle at boy's return of her small play. But seriously, that's amazing, Mia. You parents need to be proud of you. They are, but from time to time Dad still complained how I should more like a lady. Well, to me seems like you grow up into a splendid young lady. At his words and wide smile her face began to burn up, and memories of their time together and feelings that came with them returned, but she decided to push those thoughts away and returned to their conversation. Aroi-kun, where are you looking at? She said while trying to cover her chest. No, that I didn't mean. His entire face became red and he couldn't feel more embarrassed at the moment. At his reaction Mia could do nothing but burst out laughing like a madman. As Fog our hero, he remembered how his friend was like when they were children. I already forgot how you liked to tease me every second you got back when we were little. At memories of her time while doing pranks and teasing both him and the other boy as a child, it even brought out an even larger smile on her face. The same happened to her friend, but he gave her a grin that rivaled her smile. And you? Still training? Nah, I found fighting with fists more to my taste. But I do remember a thing or two. Then would you like to have a spar with our team one time? Sure. Sounds like fun. At that second she finally noticed that one of Issei was green, but not like her friend's Asia. It was more pure color than normal green. A color only seen at pictures or paintings. The color was called jade. What happened to your eye? If I remember, it was chocolate brown. Her question startled him a little. I can't tell her truth, he thought. It changed color. One morning I wake up and bam, my left eye was green. I would say that it's jade. You know, a more pure green. Oh, that's because of the light. When it shines it gets more shine. Don't know why thou. The girl was suspicious of his behavior, but decided to leave it at that since she knew better than prowl into one's personal life. Even if he was her childhood friend. Oh, but it's really pretty. Why, I guess so. Issei was glad he was able to avoid subject of his left eye. Looking at his watch he said, it's almost end of break, let's get back to class. Yeah, it's a good idea. Mia seemed a little down, so to make her cheer up a bit, he said something that he would regret later on. Hey, I will tell you about it one day. But not right now. Okay. With that, girl stopped her walking and said, promise. With a sigh he assured her, promise. At that the girl turned around and shoot him what he knew all too well. It was a grin of victory. You set me up? You actually seated me up. The victory is won in mind, not body. Ever heard that? Why, you little. At his reaction Mia sprinted for word into main building, trying to outrun Issei that seemed a little angry with her actions. Wow, was the only word Mia and the girls could think of as they seen their senpais thrown around like rag dolls by one transfer student dressed in karate uniform. Today was a special physical education lesson of self-defense with members of both male and female karate club. 3 years and 2 years were actually very strange, being last year's runner-ups in national tournament. And right now, saying bluntly, they were taking beating. 10 males. For 3rd years and 6 second years were mostly lying in shambles, as some of them were trying to get up and get back into fight. He did say that fighting with fists was more to his taste, but isn't this too much? Was what Mia was thinking. Hey sensei, is this all the school has to offer from their club members in matter of karate? With those words the resting female members of karate club got up and started to walk towards Issei, being really set at him for talking like that. 30 women surrounded him and started their offense. Now this is getting interesting. With a wide grin he started to engage girls in a fight. Well, isn't he an all-knowing? From karate to judo to do not harm the girls. Impressive. On the other side of dojo, Yudo was looking at the fight and noticed one thing that others did not. Hayadu started smiling genuinely while fighting. It was not his usual grin like most of time. It was a true smile. He started to understand that more and more about Issei with every minute. He was knowledgeable, not genius-like, but he was smart. Strong as well as he could see, and known in martial arts. And one more thing, fighting gave him pleasure. It was finally the end of his first day at school. He was preparing to go home while he saw Mia come closer to him and saying something, but she was not fast enough as Yudo said something else. He would dash. Hayadu-kun, could you come with me? Our Butcho would like to talk with you. It was obvious that it was not a question, not like a statement that only answer was yes. But playing cool, he answered to him first and then turned his head to Mia. Okay. Sorry, Mia. Maybe tomorrow? Sure. Was her only answer she could come up with, while observing her friend go out of classroom with the so-called Prince of Kuo Academy. Ikuan. You know you don't need to be so worried of me, was all Issei could say to Yuto on their way to old school building in which was the place where ORC's club room was located. Hearing that did not seem to make things easier for Yuto after remembering this morning's little talk with him. Noticing that Issei tried different approach. Listen, if it's about this morning, I'm sorry. Yuto stopped at his words. It's just that I have a little experience with devils, and since knowing that having a person's close to you while being a person of unknown creates ideas to good for enemies. That's all. Yuto couldn't say he did not understand his situation. Being made a bodyguard of some devil princess, on top of that having trust issues with her servants, and for Desert meeting his childhood friend in school that was their stronghold. It was a pretty good reason to act like that. Sai, no, don't worry, I understand that. I suppose that if our position were reversed I would do the same. So don't worry. With that he started walking once more and stopped again after hearing a large sigh. At that he turned to the persons that let it out. I'm glad. I thought that you were a more of a hold-up person that did not think outside the box. I'm glad that I was wrong. At his words Yuto couldn't help but be surprises at how different the other boy was after clearing his misunderstanding up. And with that said, let's reintroduce ourselves. The name is Issei Hayato, but you can call me Issei if you want. Nice to meet you. He ended his reintroduction with a V sign, at which Yuto started to laugh a little. He could be more surprised at differences between Issei's seriousness personality and his easygoing attitude and understand that he was like that with persons he accepted as friends. You're really interesting, Issei-kun. It's nice to meet you, again I guess. I'm Yuto Kiba. Rias Grammar-sama loyal knight. But you can call me. How about you? With a surprised look for his nickname from his me friend, it did not sound so bad. In fact, he liked it. It's not bad. Very well, you can call me you, Issei-kun. Oh, you. Nice to meet you. The pleasure is all mine, Issei-kun. And with that, an unexpected friendships was created between two boys that after heartwarming confession continued on their way to club room. The object of her inability to focus during lessons on Eve Moore was the freshly transferred young Sekudai. To her surprise, he was younger by a year, and from what she heard, he defeated entire karate club during their self-defense lesson. She was taken away from those thoughts as Yuto and Issei entered the room. One neck again, her body began to burn up a bit. Hello, Gremry-senpai. Hello, Hayato-kun. How is the school? Well, you may have heard about my fight with karate club, so I would say it's been pretty good. Indeed I have. And about discovering that your childhood friend is attending the same school as you. At her words she felt a feeling of danger and noticed that it was coming from Issei. This feeling she knew from fight with Kokobile. It was a bloodlust. Don't worry, I will do nothing to endanger a normal human into our world. With that the filing ended and Issei relaxed a bit, which was noticed and commented by snickering, curtsy of Yuto. After that little show, Issei decided to sit on sofa and listen to conditions that probably Rias made for him to stay with them. For our cover to do not be discovered, I would like you to join our club. Oh. Why is that? By being in this club you will be able to go out during lessons. Of course there are other merits to it, like having a home base for our activities as devils and in your case my bodyguard. And about that, old man said that he talked to your brother in that case, so there's no problem. And I get to have this kind of normal high school live. I see, that's good. With ending of their conversation, Akino and Asia have entered the room carrying cups of tea for everyone including Issei. Very well then. I hereby welcome you to Occult Research Club Issei Hayato. Thank you, Butcho. And you can call me Issei, since it's kind of weird being called full name by a senpai. He flashed her a smile while touching the back of his head in embarrassed manner that made her blush. I did not know that Butcho preferred younger boys. Tefufu, said Akino while handling her cup, and she countered with intense glare. While doing the friendly fight, Asia has made her way to Issei and handling him his cup of tea. Here you go, Hayato-san. You don't need to be so nervous. And call me Issei. We're both classmates, so it's little weird that you call me by my family name. He took a cup from her and showed her a smile that she returned with a bright red smile. Hi Issei-san. Observing everything from her chair, she was glad that both her servants and her new bodyguard were getting along. What she did not know that their peace that they just stained would be quickly destroyed by upcoming storm. Normal POV. It's been a week already. Mean. He woke up from his day dreaming by a shout from a girl that he was sparing right now with. It was his childhood friend Mia. It was a morning in Kuo Town School and girls from Kendo Club had morning practice. For last week, ever since his reunion with Mia, he has been joining in their practices, and the girls loved that he helped them. They were able to spar with an opponent with higher level of body strength, or that was what said their trainer to them before allowing Issei to join them in practices. His school life for a week now has been pretty normal although. Between morning kendo practices, classes, club meeting and his alone time that consisted of sleeping, training, walking around city and flying, he was pretty satisfied with his present life and enjoyed it all together. Getting back to match between Issei and Mia, it has just ended with Mia whining by making her friend fall out of bands. It became her most common strategy against him in their matches up till now. She understood after her first fight with him that in matter of pure strength no one could beat him. On the other hand, both of them were able to enjoy each other company while Mia was enjoying it more than us. Well, you got me again, Mia, said Issei with shrug after taking of his helmet to wipe sweat of his face. It was only luck. If I would go up against you in frontal attack I would lose. Maybe, but still, your technique is really beautiful. It shows how much work you put in kendo. At his words, girl could only gone a light red, but by ending his sentence with his classic happy grin, Mia gone full red from ear to ear. Turning back to him to do not let him see her face, she began to mumble something under her nose. They were both taken back by rest of team dropping their gear and going to exit of gym in which stood Yuto. When it's time for our club meeting. Right, sorry. Give me a minute I will take a quick shows and meet you outside. Okay. He shoot his angle-like smile, in his case devil-like I think. For Mia, a friendship between First Prince and Seasend Prince was a big surprise. And yes, Issei Hayato has been named Seasend Prince of Kuo Academy after stopping the infamous duo of Matsumoto and Motohoma after spotting them peeking at girls in their changing room and giving them a good beat down, which he later left girls to add their own few swings of shurnai. Most girls were starting their fan club for her friend and other were fantasies about a yaoi action between both prince. Even her best friend Murayama was starting to get their desis. And speaking of the devil, she has just came to talk to her friend. It's really incredible that both of them became friends. I mean, week ago they seemed like worst enemies. I know. But I'm glad he found a friend that he enjoys company of. Indeed, it has been already a week since Issei Hayato has transferred to their school and it seemed like wheels of fate has begun to turn around. After classes, most students have club activities to attend. Our hero was one of them together with his friend. He has just arrived in ORC club room that already all other members were accounted for. The last to arrive was Rias that entered through the door leading to another room that I did not know what was for. Everyone, we have a job. At her words, Kaneko and Asia that were sighting, stood, and like Akino and Yuto were started to prepare for their job. But there was only one boxed problem. Yui, I don't want to go out. There's still sun outside. The problem name was Gasper. A half-vampire that is Rise Seasend Bishop. What's going on? He asks Yuto out of curiosity, but the one to answer his question was Rias. Gasper, we have been tasked with this by Grand Duke. We can't just not go because you don't want to, said Rias with her voice of authority and a hint of innocence. Ever since he has been freed from his room at the beginning of this year for school, they have been trying to make him lose his hikikomori way of living, but it seemed like it had no effect yet. Taking a pit at the boy, Issei throws his bag at sofa, comes near Rias and Gasper, and asks the young heir a question. Maybe I will go in his stead? This surprised everyone. After his statement, he turns to Gasper and says, it's not like I don't understand a vampire. And besides, my job is to provide protection for your king, so I guess it's a win-win thing for both parties. Wouldn't you say so, Butcho? After taking a moment to decide what to do and understanding that there were no real downsides, she straightened up and looked at both boys. Very well, but, Gasper, you need to send at least 3 of your vampires with us. Hai Butcho. Issei senpai, thank you. With a look of satisfaction, all members of ORC got in the room that Rias came out of. What surprised Issei was that the room had a giant magic circle on the floor and nothing else. A transportation circle. Not to add very advanced. I guess you can go anywhere on Earth with this type of magic. A fufu. Very good, Issei-kun. Butcho's brother is very overprotective and he has been spoiling her a little. Even getting her this from his friend, after pleading and saying embarrassing things like dash, she has been stopped from saying anything by red-cheeked Rias outing her hands on her mouth. That is besides the point. What matters is what we have a very useful means of transportation. Wow. So even Mao is not able to overcome a pouting little sister, huh? With everyone inside the circle, Rias and Aquino channeled their magical power into circle and we have found ourselves right in front of what looked like an abandoned factory that is pretty close to Kuo Town. This is where the target is. So this is your job? Taking care of stray devils? I say to Yuto that stands next to me. We are asked from time to time to take care of some strays. Stray devils. A reincarnated devil that has disobeyed his master and run away from them. In most cases they turn mad and move according to their killing instincts. Issei himself in his time with Azazel killed a few of them on missions and as training exercise. Butcho, are you sure that target is in here? Asked Kaneko, still keeping her natural emotionless expression. Grand Duke said that he could be here but... Gasper. At her words 3 black, small bats appeared with glowing red eyes. Hi Butcho. And those 3 bats flied inside the factory. So she sends a scout first to make sure to do not use unnecessary powers. With Gasper still not reporting back, Issei decided to do a little of his own recon. He concentrated and his green eye changed to that of dragon. It seemed like no one noticed, but after a minute his eye changed back to normal and he began to move forward the factory, at which Asia pointed out. I see, Isen, where are you going? Isn't it obvious? To take down the stray that is in center of building. His statement made everyone a little startled. You can't just charge in, besides we don't know that it is there. Let us wait for Gasper and then dash. Rias was interrupted when Gasper's bats flew near her and gave her location of stray. To her surprise it was exactly in the place Issei said it would be. How dash? Let's just say I have a good sense about those kind of things. And with that all of them decided to follow the security eye into factory. Inside it was darkness, not even a beacon light. But thanks to windows in ceiling they were able to see center of building. What is this smell? A sweat one and a stinking one. Which should I eat? The voice was that of a woman, but what appeared was indeed a woman, the top at least, the bottom well not so much. It was a body of a beast. I think I'm going to be sick. Issei says that while holding one of his hand on his stomach. Stray devil Visora. By orders of Grand Duke, we are here to punish you for betraying your master. Prepare for death. Ha! You can try, little princes, but you shall not kill me. It charges for word Rias but is stops in her tracks by a person holding her tail. You shall not harm Butcho. Hey. And Kaneko throws Visser up into sky where on ceiling with his blade prepared waited Yuto that the moment she was thrown launched himself at her and made a clean cut at her arm that dropped to the ground far from the center of building. TC. At his action stray did the only thing it could at the moment. It grabbed Yuto leg with its tails and thrown him to the ground with Omen's force. At the moment he made contact with the ground, Rias said her first orders out loud. Aquino. Hi, Butcho. With her acknowledgement she launched a ferocious lightning magic at her with, and by the time Visser made an extinguishing sound of pain, Aiken started to make a blissful face of ecstasy. Miss Stray Devil, could you please give me more of that first-class scream of pain? She ended her pleas with a playful smile. Issei could just look at the scene before him with a puzzled expression that had a hint of fear with it. Before he could say anything, Rias took a voice in Aquino's protection. You don't need to worry. Aquino acts like that only against her opponents. There's no need to worry. Even if you say so. Or more like, isn't it already time to finish that thing? While still looking at the action between Aquino and Visser, he notices Asia healing Yuto with her sacred gear. It seemed as because of the fall he has broken a few ribs, and thanks to her twilight healing after a few seconds he was back to normal. Akino, that is enough. With her stern voice, Rias motioned for her queen to stop her assault on the stray that was fried enough to look like a fried chicken dish. Arar. It seems that I have shown an ugly side of myself to our guest. No, you just made me realize that you are an avatar of word, scary. Moving to the center, Rias looks down at a little crater that Akino's attacks against Visser made, and at the same time Visser looked up to see Rias only charging a black ball of energy with red aura around it. Any last word, stray devil Visser? Kill me, she says. As you wish. And with that she dropped the ball of energy and Visser's body disappeared in an instant. Making her way back to her peerage, she did not notice a shadow leaning in the darkness that launched itself at Rias with an incredible speed. She did not have enough time to notice it and was about to be pieced by it, closing her eyes and awaiting the attack, but nothing has happened. She opens her eyes to see only one person in front of her, and that was Issei. With his left hand holding what looked like an arm with very sharp nails, she noticed that his arm vast covered by red piece of metal. So that is the gauntlet of Red Dragon Emperor, boosted gear. She looked at it very carefully, observing its entire shape. The sharp look of it and beautiful pure red color of it, and noticing a green jewel at the center of his hand. It was the same color as his eye. What she did not notice was that the arm that attacked her began to burn up and dispersed after a moment, and the position she was in. You can let go now, you know. At his word she looked at herself, and the color of her face starts to change into a bright red. She sees herself climbing to her saver like a glue to a paper. At that she jumps back a few steps and turns back to him to do not let him see her face. Thank you, she says with a slit embers voice, trying to be as quiet as she could. Noticing her embers meant, Issei chuckles at her slit cute action. Don't worry about it, he says that while patting her hair a little, which made her even more embersed. Going back to their team, Issei notices in a shadow black feathers that resembled that of a bird. That's. Trailing back a little, he decided to ignore it for now and come back here later to take a closer look at it. With job done, everyone made their way back to the place they appeared in and teleport back to club room. All of them glad for not a problem during their mission, with an Issei that still thinks back to the feather he saw back at the factory and starts to wonder what it meant. After ORC left the factory, two shadows that observed the fight between devils descended to ground, folding their wings back. Even though we did all those things to get that start to take down those devils, it couldn't even take down one of them. Says first shadow that looked like a child. It doesn't matter. We got the info seek needed for our plan to work. Let's go back, says the other figure, a slit taller than the first. But to think that Azazel same really sent security to protect that girl, aren't you a little jealous? Her words stopped at the sharp object that pointed her way at her throat. One more word and I will cut that impudent mouth of yours. With that the figure stops talking at took of back to the sky. Little person mumbling something under her nose while the other shadow drifted back to image of Issei that she saw in factory. Soon I will be able to stand next to you, my beloved dragon. Next day, Issei decided to tell Rias about his finding in factory the other night, but before he could do that he decided to stop by at the gym to talk with Mia. On his way there he noticed two persons going around the gym. To make sure that it was not any danger, he decided to follow them, and when he came around gym he found the infamous, perverted duo of Motohama and Matsuhata doing what they were best at, being perverts. What are you guys doing? He asked them while standing next to their getaway route. Hey. What does it look like? Well, truth be said, you look like you are trying to pick on girls in their changing room. He answered their question flatly. Of course we are. This man's job to pick on girls while they're changing. At their statement, Issei could just sweat drop at the stupidity of those two boys. But he did not have enough time, for he was interrupted by a girls that he knew all too well. What do you think you're doing here? Mia said in a cold voice that sent shivers down the spine of each boy. Mia. Hey, I was just asking those two the same question, he said while still shivering. Girl looks around the corner and her eyes change from sedative to that of enraged dragon. You again? I told you last time that if I find you here again you will face fate worse than death. With that the two perverts have scrammed and only Issei and Mia were left in the place. with one of them trembling while waiting for the other reaction and the other one standing tall and still holding a shurnai in one hand. Finally turning back, the girl starts saying, "Ikuan Lo, what were you really doing here?" she asks with a dangerous tone. "Like I said, I followed them here," he explains. Okay, but still, so that you won't even think about those kind of things, I will beat some sense into you." With her playful tone, she starts to aim shurnai at her friend's head and without a doubt swings it at him. Wait, I didn't do anything. I'm innocent," he shouts, and she starts to easy up and puts back her weapon. "HM, very well. I will forgive you this time, but let me catch you here again and you won't be able to sit on that butt of yours for a week, got it?" Gulpwise mom. "Good. Now then, see you tomorrow, Ikuan." Mia leaves confused Issei to think for a second and make a conclusion what she fully meant, and he started to shake from top to bottom once more. Note to myself, never, ever pss Mia off. I will be killed. Then as on Ka, he remembered that it all started because he wanted to talk to her. He stands up and runs after her, catching up to her in no time. "Mia! Wait!" he shouts, and now confused Mia turns back to him and skips in surprise of how close her friend was. "What is it?" "Listen, be careful when going back home, okay? I heard there were some weird things happening lately." "Come on, there is no way that something like that is Their way. Be careful. Okay." Right now she could see a look full of worries on Issei's face and decided to listen to his advice. "Fine. I will. Thanks for worrying about me." She shoots him a worm smile and he immediately starts to flush a red color on his face. "Oh, okay. Well then, see you, Mia." He runs off and she can only look at his back and smile. "See you. Stupid Ikuan." Talking. Thinking. Later on in ORC's room, after Issei explained that he found fallen angel feathers and what they mean. Maybe they've joined forces with the stray from yesterday? Issei suggested with a brief shrug of his shoulders. Not likely. Even if a devil becomes a stray, they wouldn't ever join forces with an angel, not even a fallen one. Ria stated as she shook her head lightly, to which a silence surrounded the group and made them all muse to themselves of what could be going on. What if they were used for something completely different? Kaneko spoke up silently, which caused everyone to immediately turn toward her with blinking eyes. After a moment of this idea sinking in for them, Yuto slowly gave a nod of his head in agreement. Actually, that sounds like it could the truth. It may have been just a big diversion in order to keep us from realizing what they're really after, he said as he looked down briefly in thought during his words. Well, most fallen angels are ordered by Old Man Azazel to look for sacred gear users. They then observe and talk with them in order to decide whether to bring them in or just leave them be. Issei said silently as he rested his chin between his finger and thumb. Though no one knew of this information beforehand, all of the ORC members decided to believe the Grigori agent. Yet while everyone thought about this, a voice spoke up from the doorway and caused each of them to turn to the source. If that is correct, then this must be about a sacred gear user in your territory, Rias. Sona said with her usual silent voice. Said girl wearing her slightly rounded glasses, of which she adjusted on the bridge of her nose. Along with these, she wore the usual school uniform on her slim figure. Her black hair was styled in a short bob cut and her piercing violet eyes stared at everyone in the room. All the while, another teen girl came up behind her, whom had long, straight, black hair that extended all the way down to her knees. She had split bangs and heterochromia eyes, with the left one being violet and the other having a light brown color. This girl also wore the Kuo Academy girls' school uniform, yet she also had on a pair of blue, semi-rimmed glasses with square lenses. This is an unexpected visit. What brings you here today, Sona? Rias questioned as she crossed her arms under her chest and raised a brow slightly. Sona? As in Sona Citri, second daughter of the Citri house and little sister of current Leviathan. Issei thought to himself with slightly narrowed eyes, him having been informed about all the relatives of nearly every high-level demon. The one thing that made him soon sweat drop was the fact that Azazel had also told him that many of them tend to spoil their siblings like crazy. Issei having met the current Lucifer numerous times during meetings while acting as Azazel's bodyguard, which was usually enough to make him question this a number of times. Hello Rias, I wish to discuss our little problem together. Sona began as she stepped into the room fully along with the other girl. Though both of them soon shifted their gaze over to Issei with slightly narrowed eyes, as well as to see this new bodyguard of yours, she continued, her stepping a bit closer to said teen. It is an honor to meet one of heavenly dragons. The Welsh dragon, correct? Securudii Drake, I believe his name is. As well as Yuda his bearer, Issei Hayudo-san. Sona greeted silently with a short nod of her head. My name is Sona Citri, and this is my queen, Tsubaki Shinra, she introduced as she gestured between herself and the teen girl behind her. As the president and vice president of the student council, we welcome you to this school. She finished with very professional-sounding voice and a bow toward him. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Citri-senpai. I hope that I won't be creating too many problems for you both. Or the school. Issei responded in a polite manner, to which he brought his hand out to shake. However, this was quickly interrupted as a teen boy came between them. Kaicho, please be careful. He works for fallen angels, they said quickly and with an urgent voice. Sajid, he had saved our lives during Kokabiel's incident and has been in this school for over a week. Thus far, no harm has come to anyone by his hand, so you may calm yourself. Sona said in her own relaxed tone as she briefly closed her eyes. Kaicho, I still think that Sai began, yet was silenced by said girl bringing a hand up in order to prevent him from continuing on. Though Issei raised a brow to this, he immediately figured out that this other teen boy must also be on the student council. Him being a tall individual with a messy, dirty blonde hair and gray eyes. He was wearing the Kuo Academy boys' school uniform, albeit without the blazer, and his sleeves were rolled up. He appeared to be around the same age as Issei himself, though what he could see, the teen wasn't entirely the mature type. After his conclusion from his observation, he then looked to the teen girl that Sona had walked it with. She mentioned her name was Tsubaki, but I haven't really heard much about her overall. I wonder if there is any information about her powers or such. Issei thought briefly before looking over to Rias as she spoke up. Sona, I don't mind you coming over here to talk. But being a person in your position, don't you have other places you need to be? The red-haired girl questioned with a slight tilt of her head to the side. Yes, but I came here on business. Oh, don't worry. Besides, it seems that a few black-winged pests were in the cathedral on the edge of city. Sona said as her eyes narrowed slightly in order to get right to the point. Indeed, that we were in fact discussing exactly how we'll deal with them. Rias added with a brief nod. As long as they remain inside the church, there is little both our sides can do. Sona commented with her own nod as the long-time relationship truly showed between these two as they spoke as if knowing what the other would say before saying it. I have been sent here to protect Rias Gremory from members of our side. So therefore, Issei started, yet let his words hang as if to get all of them to realize his offer. A brief moment after his pause, Rias turned to him with blinking eyes in a bit of surprise. You mean that you'll take care of all this? She asked quickly before she slowly raised a brow in question. Though did I guess since it's your job, you're kind of forced to do it, huh? She more of stated than asked as she clearly showed a bit of doubt in his motive. Of course. It's what I was sent here for, so that might as well get it over with. Issei said with a light shrug of his shoulders, him immediately noticing the girl's doubtful gaze. After a brief moment of considering all the possibilities, Rias just let out a heavy sigh and nodded her head in response to him. Very well then. If you insist on doing this, then I will accept your offer and thank you for take care of this matter, she said silently, her then leaning back in her chair and closing her eyes. You're very welcome, my lady. Issei answered with a tone that showed that he was planning to do this regardless of her answer. Meanwhile, on the other side of school, Mia was just exiting the front gate. Yet she soon paused in her steps and glanced back toward the school with a slightly raised brow. I wonder if something happened. Could there have been some kind of trouble? She thought briefly before eventually continuing on her way. Mia, someone called out from the side, to which Mia turned toward them with blinking eyes. This person was one of her best friends since middle school, Yuri Murayama. She was not only a fellow student at Kuo Academy, but also the vice captain of the girls' kendo club. Is something wrong? Yuri continued on with a tilt of her head. No, everything's fine that I was just thinking. Mia responded with a clearing of her throat. Heh, are you still thinking about that incident with Issei-kun? I really doubt he would peek at us with those two perverts. I mean, he is nothing like them, he's more like Kiba-kun, the vice captain said with a small smirk and wave of her hand at the beginning. Oh, Yuri. Mia began with a light giggle. How wrong you are, she finished with a small, yet knowing smirk. What do you mean? Yuri questioned with a raised brow as they started to walk together. When we were little, he would always try to peek at me when I was bathing. And there were a few times he was investigating and looked through my stuff. Incidentally, he usually only ever found my panties. Mia said with a heavy sweat drop, yet she kept her smile while also remembering all the times she smacked his head for doing such things. Ha, really? Issei-kun was like that? Yuri asked with a laugh, her even holding her stomach in the process. I think every guy is like that, the other girl said with a shrug and wave of her hand. After a few more stories and laughter from the two, they soon noticed a young girl approaching them from the opposite direction. This girl had blonde hair that was tied in two pigtails, sharp blue eyes, and wore a gothic Lolita dress. Her having a rather devious smirk on her very cute features, yet it was the heavy atmosphere that seemed to surround the girl that caught the attention of the two teens. They both then turned a corner quickly, them hoping to escape the feeling of dread that seemed to radiate from the small blonde girl. However, the moment they went down this adjacent road, the two immediately came up to a tall and buxom woman with brown eyes, as well as long, navy blue hair that obscured her right eye. Her attire consisted of a violet, trenchcoat-like top with a wide collar, a matching miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. The trenchcoat top was open at her chest, giving view to her breasts and cleavage. She also wore a gold necklace around her neck. Pardon us, but we need you two to come with us now, Goth Girl said from behind the two teens. But while Mia was about to fight back, she suddenly felt her consciousness slipping away along with Yuri's. This led for the schoolgirls to fall unconscious into the arms of the other two, to which they then flew off quickly with the black feathered wings that came out from their backs. What they didn't see, however, was the small creature observing the whole situation. It quickly flying up into the air and heading toward the school, while the girls flew off in the opposite direction. Once the meeting between the student council and the ORC was over, Issei let out a heavy breath in exhaustion. Him making his way to doors to head out, yet he quickly paused when one of the club's windows opened suddenly and allowed a small creature to come flying in. Yet it flew too fast and ended up bumping the edge of the table in the middle of the room and crashed on top of it. Everyone blinked a few times in surprise, yet soon surrounded the small beast and looked at it with a slightly raised brow. It was a little red dragon with emerald green eyes and a white underbelly, but every girl looking at it couldn't stop themselves from thinking one word about it: cute. Sieg? Issei asked with a raised brow as he joined the circle around the table. What are you doing here? Gao, the little dragon called out as he flapped his wings and flew on top of Issei's shoulder. This led yet to another moment of every girl thinking cute, as the small dragon started to lick his master's face. Though Sona snapped out of this cute trance and cleared her throat quickly. Hayata-kun, could you explain what that is? She questioned quickly, her turning back to her usual stone self as she didn't want to believe she was calling something cute. His name is Sieg, he's my familiar. He had just hatched when I was traveling through the forest where familiars reside. Though I was originally helping him to find his parents, after a while, he took a liking to me and I guess he saw me as his new parent. Then again, that the fact that I have a dragon inside of me likely helped with that as well. He explained while petting the little dragon on his head. This making all the girls coo in response as the image before them was just too adorable for them to resist. Although, Issei started up again as he raised a brow and looked to his dragon companion. Did I seem to remember leaving you at Grigori? So how and why did you come here? He asked with a slight tilt of his head in question. Immediately following these words, Sieg started to cry out with silent roars and growls. But while no one else in the room understood, Issei's eyes widened in response to what his familiar was telling him. What? Are you sure? He all but demanded as his eyes widened a bit further, which earned him a "Gao" in response. With this, the brown-haired teen narrowed his eyes and quickly heading for the doors. Though he paused in the doorway, he didn't turn around as he said his next words in a serious tone. "We might have a problem." Normal POV. In the middle of night, one lone figure was running in the forest that was located on the borders of Kutown. The figure started to slow down as the trees thinned and revealed a lone building. An abandoned church, once a place for families to pray to God. It had been replaced by a newer church in middle of city right next to the graveyard in which resides the parents of Red Dragon Emperor Issei Hayu. That said boy was now standing in front of the church, least 20 meters from its main entry. Okay then, he thinks. Partner, as much as I like a little destruction, let's stick to the plan. I have a bad feeling about this, said his lifelong partner Drige from inside his prison, one of 13 Longinus boosted gear. I know that, he said a little annoyed, but still this plan is just too much reckless even for my taste. 1 hour before. And that's pretty much the situation. Summing it up, Issei ended the translation of his young dragon familiar, Sieg's story to the rest of ORC and few members of student council that were present in the club room. To approach and even abduct members of this school. Those fallen angels do not know their place, said student council president Sona Citri with a distasteful frown on her face. I agree, but I cannot think of a reason why they would do such a thing without having something to gain from this. Ended the basic statement from Sona's queen as well as vice president of student council Tsubaki Shinra. Either way, they have taken members of our school as well as friends of my cute little servant Asia. That alone deserves punishment, said with her arms crossed around her ample chest, president of Occult Research Club and the one ruling this area in World of Magic, next heiress of Gremory clan Rias Gremory. Well, if they are following the standard orders of Grajiri, they mostly took them because of a possibility of them having a sacred gear, stated Issei as he knew how fallen angels work. Be that as may be, it's pretty weird. Abducting was certainly not a part of orders, and if they do that it would be more likely a male since most fallen angel girls just want a taste of them. I whispered quietly. Either way we need to save them. And to do that we need a plan, stated Rias as she activated a magic circle. In it was the entire Kuo town in a holographic vision. Now then, the angels are stationed in this abandoned church. It is surrounded by thick forest and is placed atop of a hill, so it is difficult for a long and complicated plan, not to mention the time. So we are going to attack them by frontal assault led by. She shifted her eyes to young Dragon Emperor. Me, since it's a church, and not to mention that a barrier is most likely placed around the perimeter. Exactly, and following you will be my peerage and me myself. After destroying the barrier we will follow you in, she said with a smile and closed eyes. Wait, what? You see, he was caught halfway in sentence as the heiress continued talking. I'm sorry, Sona, but I will take care of this business. Of course. But I will provide a backup in a form of barrier of my own origin around the area. We can't have some civilians enter there, not to mention masking your battle against the enemy, answered the student council president with an emotionless nod. Wait. You can't go. What if this is some kinds of trap to lure you out? They could be the underlings of Kokabeel looking for revenge, I stated with panic at the way their conversation was heading. Isn't that what you are here for? Not to mention that those girls have a possibility of having a sacred gear. If that is true, then I will not miss an opportunity to gain new servants, she said, ending her sentence with a devious grin at which I just couldn't help but sweat drop. Truly as expected of a high-class devil Oju-san. She won't miss an opportunity to milk everything she can from a situation, said young man as he got closer to the barrier around the church. Guess that's the center of barrier. Trailing off, he looked at the cross wish was atop the church's main tower. Looking back at barrier, he took a deep breath to calm himself down before straightening his posture and fixating his eyes on the goal of this mission. Wait for me, Mia. Let's go, Drake. It's time to go a little wild. Oh, it's been a while since you made that kind of face, partner. But one thing is correct, it's time to go wild, stated the Welsh dragon, and on cue he took one step forward towards the barrier. In a split second he was surrounded by many people dressed in dark green color robes which covered their entire body. Who are you? Get out of here. Issei started to hear all of them screaming things at him, but all had the same meaning, for him to leave. But he stood unfazed by their words and kept a straight face. Hey, didn't you? He dash. One of the men tried to touch the young man but was in return thrown back into the group of rogue priests. At that signal, all of them held their spears and moved them into the place where Issei stood. In response, he jumped and started moving from place to place while using heads of priests as stepping stones. After a few steps, he decided to aim at the cross. So he jumped as high as he could while using one of rogues as a starting point. He was able to jump so high that he was practically at the same height as the tower. While gaining altitude, he moved his right arm up and formed an imaginary pistol with his hand. His two fingers were supposed to act as barrel while the big finger acted as a trigger. At the moment he could see the cross right in front of him, a red magical circle appeared in front of it. Bang! Like a child playing a game, he made a move in which trigger closed down and he moved his arm upwards. In that moment, a high amount of magical power was released and like a bullet, headed straight for the cross, which resulted in its destruction. The barrier around the place started to disappear. His job was complete. Those were his thoughts while falling and landing on his knee. That moment caused surprise in the enemies in front of him, which he used to manifest boosted gear, boost his speed, and like a shooting star across night and speed towards the entrance to the church. Hang in there just a bit more, Mia. I'm coming. Ria's POV. He is quick on the job, is he not, Bucho? Said the queen standing next to me, Aquino. Indeed. But he is too rash, I said as I saw the young security head straight for the church entrance. Kiba, Kaneko, take care of the priests and join up with Issei after that. Gasper, provide cover for the two. Yes, Bucho. All three of them responded with determination and flew down into the center of battlefield. Then the assault began. With an amazing speed granted to him by my knight piece, Kiba cut down most of the enemies that surrounded the three young devils. The ones that were a little further away were quickly attacked by a barrage of strong, precisely aimed punches of the power-type piece, the Rook Kaneko. But during the assault on one side, the other side of rogues decided to take their chance and attack them from back. They were stopped in their tracks by some unknown force. The truth was that their time had been stopped by Gasper and his sacred gear Forbidden Balor View that was activated by his strong feelings of not wanting his friends to get hurt and further boosted by his magic enhancement traits of Bishop. While looking at my dear servants doing such splendid job, I can't help but be proud of them, especially Gasper, that is such a scaredy cat it made him become a cross-dresser. Well, I can't really complain since it suits him much, but still. Rias. Aquino says, bringing me back to the present from my thoughts. We may have company. I look back and see two female fallen angels. One dressed in a gothic Lolita dress and the second one in a purple business suit with a very small skirt, but the suit seemed it would burst open any minute, not being able to withstand the size of her bust. Oh, seems like the scum down there are having a bit of trouble with those devils, said the businesswoman. In the end, they are just humans, Calawarner. Even with the power we grant them, they are still just weak humans, barked back the smaller girl with a higher tone to the now identified Calawarner. I guess you are right, Mitlolt. After ending their little banter, both of them directed their attention back at us. So, what are 5 devils doing in our base? Asked Calawarner. Aren't you the ones who provoked us by kidnapping a student, a friend of ours? Not to mention that you did it right in front of our school. I stated the obvious. Well, I may not know them personally, but I heard a great deal of praises from both Asia and other students. I hear a little whisper from behind me that belonged to Asia, who hid behind me after the fallen angel's arrival. Why did you take Kates and Mayumura-san? I was taken back as it's the first time I have heard Asia raise her voice at anyone, no matter who they were. Well, that is dash. Say POV. Faster. I need to be faster. Those were my thoughts at the moment. I was already near the entrance to the underground chamber that was near the central of this church. I speed down the stairs and came upon the chamber where more than 50 rogue priests were doing some kind of chanting. I look where the chants were meant to go, and what I saw made blood froze in my entire body. I saw my childhood friend Mia, in a short, white nightdress. If we weren't in this situation, I would be very excited to see how she, well developed, in some areas of her body, chained to a cross. Near her was a man wearing a gray coat laughing like a maniac, but what surprised me was that the woman in front of Mia had long black hair and was dressed in what looked like sand armor had a lightly glowing green orb of light. The moment she turned around, her face started to change from emotionless stone into a sun of happiness as she saw the one who interrupted their ceremony was me. I myself was surprised to see her here, the person who I saved and ever since then was most loyal to me to the point of obsession, as my mentor liked to call it. Ray? Is that you? I ask in disbelief as to why would she be here. Issei, she screamed and tried to flee down to me but was stopped by the man mentioned previously. Now, Rainer. It is not appropriate to do not finish the task given to you, and do as you please. Donasik. Why security? It has been a while. Last it was when the medical team took you to infirmary after Aniki beat you to pulp. I answered, remembering that moment when he hit the wall after Aniki's light punch. Well, I need to say that after the humiliation I suffered from that man, my rank and respect among my own fell dramatically, he answered with a little malice. Having a 12-year-old kid kick your butt makes it pretty clear as to why that happened. I suppose so. But thanks to that I was found and taken into Kokabeel Samus faction and become one of their leaders. For that I am grateful. I see. Still does not clear up why you took those girls. I pointed at where Mia was. And what did you even do to them? Oh, is it not obvious? I just took what was given to her by God, when he said that it all hit me at once. This place, green orb of light, and the reason as why Mia was not moving. Couldn't what? Reap her sacred gear from her body, which resulted in her. Why security? That's exactly what I did. Haha. Ria's POV. Taking the sacred gear from its original host? If you do something like that? Akino shouts as the two female fallen angels told us their plan. They die? Well, it's not like power comes without a price. Besides, it's just one less human trash in the world. Does it really change anything? Asked us the gothic Lolita angel Mitlet. At her words, Asia broke down on her legs and stated, crying for the loss of her friends. At such a scene, my queen quickly reacted and hugged her tightly, knowing how hard it is to lose someone close. But their actions of beautiful sisterhood were broken down by a maniacal laugh from the two fallen women. What? Little blonde devil girl knew those two girls? Well, this is a masterpiece, N.E. Calawarner. Really? Who knew that devils had such a soft spot for humans? Answered the other girl. As they continued to laugh, I remembered that after transferring into the third-year middle school division of Academy, Asia was all alone. But then one day she came back saying that she finally made two friends, and another day she introduced both of them to Akino and I. It was Mia Mayamura and Kates. At that moment something in me broke, and I started to release a little amount of my aura, which started to grow as longer the angels were laughing. I started to make them pay attention to me. You made my little sister cry just so you could laugh and obtain power, is that correct? That's exactly what we did. One of them answered with a mocking voice. I see. Then I move my hand upward and show them a crimson ball of swirling black energy. Be gone. And with that said, both were overcome by my power, not knowing that their struggles were all in vain. Everything that comes in my way will crumble and disappear into nothingness. Normal POV. Same time in Underground Sanctuary. So tell me, how does it feel, security? Not being able to save one human girl. At the time he started to talk, both Kiba and Kaneko had entered the sanctuary. While laughing in maniacal way, Donasik was uppercut by red metal gauntlet, which sent him upwards into the air. In a moment he stabilized himself and looked down, only to find that no one was there. He looked back and once more he saw red metal before being sent flying again, this time into surface. Right after the exit of the fallen, his attacker Issei descends onto the stage near Rainer and addresses her. Ray, I don't know how you are involved in this, but get Mia down from that church and onto the ground, then help her. Got it? He asked her, but as she knew him, it was obvious that it was not a question but an order given to be done. Of course, she replied with a smile and a bit of red cheeks. You, Kaneko-chan. I leave this place to you. Count on us, replied both Kaneko and Kiba while preparing to engage the enemy troops. And with that in mind, he has made his resolve and decided to end this. He moves his gauntlet up and shouts, "Balance break! Welsh dragon! Balance breaker!" With that announcement, Issei held his gauntlet up high, and around his body started to appear deep green gems, from which a red metal started appearing all around his body. Moments later, Issei stood in a full armor, minus the helmet, which then appeared, starting with top. It covered his mouth, and next were his eyes that concealed by green eye shields. When the lights of transformation died out, Issei stood in a massive red armor with green gems on his joints and on his chest. It was the armor of Red Dragon Emperor Balance Breaker, boosted gear, scale mail. Then he shoot upwards to go after Danasik through the tunnel he created by punching him. Both devils were glad that such a powerful being was on their side, but they quickly shifted their attention back to the rogue priests that stood in front of them with their weapons ready to engage them. Just before both parties met, a red spear pierced one of the exorcists, and when they looked up, they saw the fallen angel that seemed to know Issei standing with a light spear in one hand and the girl Mia's body in other. "Lady Rainier, what are you doing?" one of the priests shouts out. "Be quiet, you lowly worms. I'm doing what I was told to do by my one and only master, Issei-sama," she shouted out, which made everyone present look at her with fear. Only the two devils wondered what is the relationship between her and the Security. Same time in the church. Danasik was starting to get up only to be stopped by a red metal leg that was placed on center of his chest. "Now then, how about I repay you for what you did to my childhood friend?" Danasik's eyes widened when he heard the voice that came out of the metal armor was the young human that he mocked just moments ago. He tried to create a light spear in both hands but was stopped when the force which Issei pressed his leg on him increased dramatically to the point his opponent started spilling blood. Then after removing his leg from the body, Issei grabbed him by throat and lifted him in the air. The doors of the church opened wide, and from there Rias, Aquino, Asia and Gasper came. From the back, Kiba, Kaneko and Rainier appeared with both girls in their hands. One was carried by Kiba and the other by Kaneko. The female fallen was still holding the green sphere of light. "Don't get in my way, senpai, he's mine," said Issei to president of ORC. "Do not worry, Issei, I'm not planning on getting in way, on contrary, I came to give you some news." She held up her clenched fist, and after releasing it, a few black feathers have begun to slowly fall to ground. The two subordinates of his, I took care of them. After hearing that, the half-conscious Danasik was both furious and surprised. Furious because he lost two members of his team, and surprised because of how he lost them. He knew that they were not tremendously strong, but still they were able to put up a good fight most of the time. As expected of daughter of the Gremory house. Now then. Issei shifts his sight back from Rias to Danasik. He moves his hand up and then it appears. A flame-like red orb, but it wasn't just red. To be more precise, it was a darker shade of red, yes, almost crimson even. At that sight, Rias was taken a little back. That flame looked just like her family's power of destruction. But her question was, why did it seem familiar? Back with Issei, he ignited even more of the wired flame, and it almost covered the entire palm of his hand. "Goodbye, fallen angel Danasik. It was not a pleasure to have known you." With those words, he moved his hand closer to his chest and put the flame on him. At that moment, his entire body was covered in the flame and started to burn. The fallen shouted at the top of his lungs, but it was futile. After a few minutes, there was not even a trace of him left, not even ashes from the fire that devoured him. Then Issei released his armor only for his gauntlet to be left, and steps back to get himself right next to the body of his friend, now laid on ground without a pulse, lifeless. Right after him hurried Asia, and after her the rest of ORC that was not present near the body. She started crying tears of sadness at sight of her friend's dead body. Issei, on the other hand, had a calm face, shifting his gaze from body to the glowing orb belonging to Rainier, and after making up his mind, he stood up and moved to the noble devil of ORC. "Rias Gremory," he started saying, and did a thing no one thought possible. He bowed. "Please save her." This was a surprise to the young heiress. Holder of legendary being, one who put the battlefield of three great factions into chaos together with his white counterpart, Welsh Dragon, Red Dragon Emperor, Security Drag Issei Haidu was bowing to her and asking for help. And she was not Rias Gremory if she let this opportunity to have him owe her pass. Very well, but you understand what you're asking me? She will no longer be a human. I know, but this is the only way I can think of right now, and I would rather have her hate me and be alive than let her die an unjustified death. Very well. But you will owe me 1 inch, she answered. He nods and shifts to the remaining fallen. Give her sacred gear back. He orders her and she does as she is told without any questions asked. After putting her sacred gear back in her, she was placed in center of church and in front of Rias, as she put 3 pawn pieces on her and starts chanting. I, Rias Gremory, order thou to rise once again and walk amongst us as one of us. When she finished the chanting, the pawns glowed with a red light and covered the church. Say POV. A strong wind. That's what I feel. No, it's the only thing I can feel right now, other than an occasional drops of some liquids. One on my face and other on the ground. I could make out a smell as well after a few moments. Smell of blood. My blood. After what seemed like minutes, I started to make out quiet voices, which became louder later on. Save him if. Please. Save. I couldn't make out what happened after that. Only that I saw a glimpse of a bright white light mixing with a dark aura covering, no embracing me. I shoot out into a sighting position looking around. It's my room, I think. Yes, my room. I just returned the home of my childhood. After my parents' death, Azazel bought it out to make sure it stayed for me as a future home, a place to return. A 2-floor building for a family of 4, or at least it was supposed to be like that. But knowing Azazel, I should have guessed that he wouldn't do some remodeling. Now it was a 4-floor mansion with an underground pool and a garden at the top of house. My room is located on 3rd floor. It's size of a small apartment in some of more luxurious flats in big cities. Decoration is simple, desk with a chair, table for guests with light brown leather sofa, and master bed for at least 4 people near the windows. Sigh, I still can't get used to this place. I mutter in a whisper and some things or someone reacted to that. I'm yet to see clearly, but while moving my hand I landed on something pretty soft and round thing which made a sound like Munya. I look to my right and see my partner while on Grigory's mission, Rainier or Ray as I like to call her. A pretty normal female fallen angle, normal as beautiful woman with jet black long hair and amethyst purple eyes, not to mention her curvy body. But why was she sleeping next to me in my bed? As she had nowhere to sleep, I let her stay with me at this mansion, even gave her own room. So why? I don't recall anything happening last night. Issei-sama. So she got in on her own then, huh? Well, not that I mind, but Issei-sama. For you to have such a kangwai tastes. What kinds of wild, uncontrollable fantasies does this crow girl has? Not to add they have me in it. Enough of this pleasant dream. Ugh. I kick her of, and after hitting the floor she gets up, looks at me and puffs her cheeks. Issei-sama, why did you kick me of? And I finally had a very nice dream, which was getting to the best part. That's exactly why I woke you up. Or more like, why are you in my room, sleeping in my bed? I shoot back at her. That's of course because I'm your SLV and every SLV should sleep with their master. In what kind of world do they do that? Besides, do you understand the situation you're in? Because of this whole church business you're on probation, not to mention I'm not your master but guard. Azazel decided to drop all the charges if you won't make troubles, so don't. She looks at me for a moment longer before breaking her puffed cheeks and smiling at me goofy and looking with an eyes of a predator. At that I look down and see that I'm missing my shirt. This pervert of an angel. It's no wonder she would fall with that kind of attitude. Get out of her, you arrow angle. I shout at her and she quickly breaks into a run out of my room. Really? Why do I get weirdos all the time and not a Nikki? It's been 2 days since the church incident. All members from FA faction that associated with Donasik's group have been interrogated and released if no evidence against them have been found. With this, the pro-war groups within Grigory have disbanded and started to appreciate the peace they live in. Angle's side had nothing to do with this. but the Catholic Church members have apprehended all the Rouge priests involved in the incident. Seems old man leaked information about them to the Angles leader and got him to do some work. As for devils, both FA leaders and 4 great demon lords have talked the situation out, stating that they had no idea Kokabeel had such ideas or plans. Not to mention killing and stealing SG from humans, but including the fact that there has been an addition to young Gremory Hare's peerage. They decided to trust the heads of Grigory on this one. And so the very fragile peace has been protected. But, still I needed to deal with the afterwards of it, such as my continuing protection of Rias Gremory, guarding Rainier, and still making reports for the higher-ups. Not to add school and other, normal, teenage problems. And speaking of school, I was now in classroom waiting for the homeroom to start. But with its start it meant more trouble for me and devils in the school. "Okay, everyone listen," said teacher to gain attention of his students. "Once again, we have a new student in our class. Enter." The door slid open, from which a teenage well-developed girl with waist-long dark hair and purple eyes entered and gained attention of every male in the classroom with exception of Issei and Yuto. "Hi. My name is Amasaka Ray. It's nice to meet you," exclaimed Ray, or as I knew her, Ray Rainer. In order to observe her more closely, I had her transfer into this school. All boys started to shout about how cute the new girl was, as girls were divided into 2 camps. One admired how pretty and nice the girl was, 2 however were sticking daggers at the boys for acting like that in front of the new girl. As for the girl in question, she was at first looking around until she spotted me and her smile got even wider, but before she could create a scene I silenced her and have a sign to stay put until end of school day, which she listened to without a word. Unfortunately, she wasn't the only one looking my way, or in this case, steering would be more correct word for her. Mia was still shooting daggers at me for not clearly explaining the situation to her for the last 2 hours. After she was reincarnated, she was slipping in and out of conciseness. She finally woken up this morning to my dismay, as it seems that the red-haired ruin princess hadn't done her job as the king of her peerage and did not seem to explain the position she is now in. Me and my luck. Normal POV. After school, all members involved in church fiasco assembled in the ORC club room for discussion. I had once died because a fallen angle extracted a sacred gear from me, which is an item created long ago by God as a gift for humans. But to save my life, Rias One-sama resurrected me as her pawn, a piece of her peerage, in other words a server. And she could do that because she is a devil. "I guess that's the gifts of it," said Issei. An obvious reaction was a face of surprise mixed with not believing, and that was what Mia's face looked like. "I realize that it's a lot to take in, but since you became a devil I will need you to join a cult research club as an excuse if a need arises for use to leave classes during school hours." "No. It's just, I'm still having hard time believing I'm talking to Rias One-sama and the rest of OCR members," says their obvious fangirl. "Still, for that fallen angle to go to this length to obtain your sacred gear. I wonder what it is," says Yuto, trying to change the subject of their discussion. "Indeed, I almost forgot about it," giggles Akino. "Interested," mutters Kaneko. "Since it's Mayamura-san, I'm sure it's really beautiful," says Asia. If she is in Kendo team then maybe it has something to do with swords," gives a piece of her mind Zenobia. "I don't think that's how it works," says Zenobia-senpai, says Gasper. "Actually, according to Gregory's research, sacred gears are influencing the owner since little. That's why you is so great at swords and I possess a very strong affinities for dragons. Going by that logic, I don't think you're wrong, Zenobia," informs them Issei. "Is that so? Well then let use check that theory. Mia, try concentrating really hard and imagine an image of the thing that gives you most power," orders Rias from her chair. I will try, Rias-senpai." With that said, Mia starts to imagine herself in the moment of winning the national kendo contest and becoming the strongest swordswoman in the world, but nothing happened. States dumbfounded Mia. "Maybe it's too early for you. After all, you have just been reborn as devil. Your evil pieces may yet be completely accepted by your body," informs Rias. "Is that so? To tell the truth, I wanted to know what is inside me as well." "Then should I help her?" asks Issei Rias. Both girls state together as the rest of room looks at Issei with questioning looks. You can do something like that? Asks Rias. Sure. When Grigori gets a new SG user, if there are normal humans I help them active their power. But how? Is it not obvious? It's one of his powers as Red Dragon Emperor. Truly a rich devil girl such as yourself should probably know those kinds of facts. States Rainier that presence was forgotten until no. But her statement was just a means to rough up young devil heiress. Did you just say something, Crowcow? It's just as you heard, Batgirl. As both of them started staring at one another, sparks started to fly between them. At that all present decided to fall back a bit. Expect for Issei. Stop it, both of you. Ray, they may not know about it, so don't speak like that to them. We are technically their guests. Hi, Issei-sama, chippers Rainier. Huffs Rias. But I can help. As he says that his gauntlet appears and he places his hand on Mia's shoulder. It's more like I can increase your concentration for you to materialize your SG. Okay, says Mia and once again tries to concentrate. Boost. Transfer. With that announcement, Mia's concentration increased dramatically and in front of her appeared a slender katana with red hilt and scarab. A katana. She yelps and catechism it to examine it further as everyone else starts to gather near her to take a look as well. In that moment Issei's phone started to ring and he decided to answer it outside as he saw who was the caller. Hello. Yo, Issei, says a very cool and blunt. Aniki? What's up? It's rare for you to call me. Is something happening? No, it's just that Azazel wears me to pass a word. Seems that all three factions decided to hold a conference regarding Kokabil's action. Some members of other sides seems to be unsatisfied with the results. But still, if that's all, then dash. I know Azazel would tell you either way, but they are getting restless, and with this meeting, they want answer from both of yous. I know. I have yet to make up my mind. I understand, but until this conference you should sort out your feelings and decide on it. I will be there as Azazel's escort. Until the foolish little brother. See you, stupid big brother. With that said line ended and Issei looked at telephone once more before putting it into pocket and looked out the window to see the sunset. Seems that more trouble are on the way. No one was able to clearly describe the spectacle played in front of them, as no one had ever witnessed such thing. Location was Kuo City's own prestigious high school, Kuo Academy, yet it was certainly not the everyday sight of it. White School itself had few destroyed rooms. The scenery was enclosed in some kinds of a special magical barrier. Around its ground were laying people dressed in body-covering robes which made their gender hard to differ. But the purple sky, which was the effect of barrier, from time to time lighted with two controversial colors. On the ground group of people looked open the light show. In my entire life, Rias Gremory was known as one of more powerful young devils of last few generations, yet all I could do in face of such overwhelming power was look upon it in amaze and tremble in fear, thinking, such beings actually exist. The destined clash of rivals that has been repeated for generations. A scenery of dashing red and white. Armors clashed, kicks and punches connected with each other, masses of magical energy had been fired only to be cancelled by a power of same volume. As battle was turning into a stalemate, both opponents decided it's time for more direct approach. They shoot themselves forwards and met halfway in clash of their fist coated in magic power. That clash ended with an backslash to both opponents, resulting in a big explosion. Their bodies hurled down to earth and both fighters stayed down for a few seconds, but soon enough both individuals in armors started to rise up from craters they created and their figures were clear enough to finally see. One was covered entirely in red armor with green orbs on each joint of his body and one giant orb on his chest. His armor was very sharp and from each gauntlet a yellow spike on out her side. His eyes were the same color as his orbs. His name was Issei Hyudo, this generation's Red Dragon Emperor, Sekirudii. To think that you grown in power so much from the first day we crossed fists. I'm actually proud, says the other armored individual. In contrast to Issei's red, his armor was pure white with yellow highlights and blue orbs which were placed around his body at each joint, but most noticeable were the par-if wings made of pure blue energy that were sprouted at the back of the figure. His voice confident yet teared after the exchange the two had. "Well, it's been a while since we fought seriously like this, Aniki," answered Issei in the same tone as the white guy. He was a person that Issei was brought up with and looked up to him like a true brother, but fate in its twisted sense of humor decided that those two should be enemies, destined to battle one another until death. He was the White Dragon Emperor, Hakuryuku, named Vale. You have a point on that. Then should we continue this further, Otudo? Yeah, we should. Issei's sentence was stopped as all gathered expression changed to that of shock. Even Vale's face showed a surprised expression at what he saw. In the middle of Issei's balance break armor was an arrow that pierced his dragon scales without trouble. From his mouth Issei started to cough bits of blood and made one questioning sound. As his from reflected in her eyes, Ria screamed his name in fear.